Welcome back to The Ed Show. From the state that brought us the Papers, Please law targeting Hispanics, Arizona now has its sights set on low-income women. Governor Jan Brewer has signed a law defunding Planned Parenthood. By banning state funding for the organization, the law will deny thousands of poor women access to Planned Parenthood services, including breast exams and cancer screenings. The state already banned the use of taxpayer money for abortions, so why was this law necessary? Good question. The president of Planned Parenthood in Arizona takes a guess.
The sponsors don't want poor women getting birth control at Planned Parenthood. Number two, it is intended to score political points.
In fact, Governor Jan Brewer signed the law at the political event for the Susan B. Anthony list, a group committed to electing anti-abortion lawmakers. Brewer calls the law common sense, yet fewer than 1 in 10 women go to Planned Parenthood for abortion services. As the Daily Beast reports, the law will reduce Planned Parenthood's clients by about 10%. It will likely impact thousands more when the Affordable Care Act takes full effect in 2014. It is a big story, and it could be the tip of the iceberg. Let's bring in Terry O'Neill, president of the National Organization for Women. Terry, always great to have you with us on the program. Here we go. This may be the avalanche. Your thoughts on how these House Republicans held up debt ceiling negotiations over Planned Parenthood last summer. I mean, has this battle now officially moved to the states?
Oh, absolutely, it's in the states, Ed. And one of the most interesting things to me is Jan Brewer signs this bill today on the same day that a similar bill in Texas is suspended by a federal court because of its unconstitutionality, on a day after USA Today and Gallup release a poll showing that in swing states, the gender gap between Republicans and Democrats is basically exploding.
Medicaid officials in Arizona are still trying to figure out, what kind of economic impact that this is going to have on women. But what does this law really mean for the women of Arizona, especially the poor women, and the future of their health care?
It's as many as 4,000 women will be deprived of health care because of what Governor Brewer has done. And this is exactly at a time when more and more women are being thrown out of work because of state and local government cutbacks. So you have women who are more and more eligible for Medicaid services are now being told they can't get basic health care services. And make no mistake, defunding Planned Parenthood takes birth control, mammograms, cervical cancer screenings, HIV, AIDS screenings, STD screenings, and treatment away from low-income women. And so why would elected officials, why would Governor Brewer take basic health care away from women and think that this is going to somehow ingratiate herself with the voters? The fact is that any politician who attacks birth control the way Jan Brewer has just attacked birth control, she will pay a price at the polls, and her party is going to pay a huge price at the polls this November.
All right, let's talk more about that. A spokesperson for Governor Brewer says that she believes that the law is going to be upheld, but you got states like North Carolina and Kansas that have got similar laws that they're facing legal challenges. But in the midst of all of that legal stuff, is this going to have a trickle-down effect politically? I mean, is this just going to drive more women into President Obama's camp and right into the hands of the Democrats?
Ed, it absolutely is. The polls are showing increasingly that the gender gap between Democrats and Republicans is widening in the swing states, and this is really being driven by independent women who don't want birth control to be politicized. I believe it's a terrible shame that abortion has been politicized, but that is a fact, and abortion, albeit it is a fundamental right of a woman to have an abortion, 1 in 3 women will have an abortion by the age of 45. I think it's necessary health care. But the fact is that the vast majority of women in this country don't want that same politicization to hit birth control. And this is what the extremists, and frankly, the extremists really seem to have taken over the Republican Party. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy for that party, which used to be a wonderful party that had many strong women's rights supporters in it. You can hardly find any that are brave enough to support women's rights anymore. And women are paying attention. They
have to be paying attention because, number one, I view this as discrimination. I mean, there are women, you know, whether you're rich or poor or economically depressed or you're in the 1%, the fact is a breast examination, a cancer screening. I mean, how ruthless can these people be when it comes to being ideologically driven? They really have no boundaries, do they?
No, you're absolutely right, Ed, and sex discrimination is exactly what it is, because all of these attacks are being made only on women's health care. There is absolutely not a single aspect of men's health care that these extremists are attacking. It's only women. So it's not just attacking women's fundamental rights, but it's also sex-specific. So it's absolutely discriminatory.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Jan Brewer can hand Arizona to President Obama, because I know the Obama team feels pretty confident about the fact that Arizona could turn. And I really think that this is one that the Republicans are going to have a hard time defending in that state. Terry O'Neill, great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. There's a lot more coming up in the next half hour of the Ed Show. Stay with us.
When Mitt Romney gets a deduction for giving to charity, the rest of us taxpayers have to cover the loss.
Bill Maher takes Mitt Romney to task over his charitable donations. That's ahead. Austerity in France did not work, and it sends shockwaves across the ocean. Tonight, E.J. Dionne on why austerity won't work in America. Tomorrow, Wisconsin will pick a Democrat to run against Scott Walker in his recall election. The stakes have never been higher. John Nichols has the latest.